All right, welcome to episode 231 of Together BHA. I am joined by Adam and Robin on a bit of a different time frame to normal, but we move. It's the morning after Fulham, after a very long week of football for the Albion, with their games against Ajax, who are now floundering at the bottom of Eredivisie as we speak, and then of course the bogey team Fulham coming to town. Adam, Robin, how are you feeling? How's everything going for you guys? Those of you watching with the visual medium will probably have your jaws on the floor at Robin's new clean cut appearance. But how are we both doing?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think it's a good week. It's a good week.
I was doing all right until I saw Robin's shaven cheeks, and now I'm a bit startled. You know. I don't know what to expect, and nothing feels certain in life now.
I know.
All right. Well, let's get straight down to it because we've got a lot to go through this week with two games and both with lots and lots of talking points, not least the fact that we just got our first ever European win ever in our history. So let's start right there. Ajax at home. Obviously, De Zerbi's been very honest and vocal about the fact that he is going to have to rotate. He has not disappointed all year long. And we've still got an injury list as long as, well, any list you can imagine, really. Newcastle are joining us on that long list of injuries, by the way, which is quite funny when you think that they're literally richer than every team in the Premier League combined, and they still can't handle the rears of this European season. But the lineup was pretty much, I think, what we all thought it might be there or thereabouts against Ajax. So Pedro and Fati up front, Gross and Gilmore in the middle, Adingra and Mitoma on the right and left wing, Dunk, Van Hecke, Veltman, all the Dutchies in the squad except for Jason Steele in goal. And predictably, and most worryingly, I think for a lot of us when we talked last week, James Milner rolled out at left back. What were you thinking when you saw that lineup? Obviously, there will be a fair bit of humble pie eaten from all three of us post Milner and Ajax performance because he was pretty good. But what were your thoughts prior to the game when you saw that lineup?
I mean, I just thought, why? Like, this has been done to death in so many different scenarios against so many different teams, both sides in terms of trying fullback. I mean, I'm with you in that to an extent it was forced. Really, the option you're left with is, are you picking Milner there or are you picking Igor there? That's pretty much the decision. And I guess Igor, having played not as much football as Milner this season, I guess that's probably what De Zerbi based it on. And maybe he was just prophetic in that, thinking that Ajax were just going to cause him absolutely no problems and do absolutely nothing with the ball. But yeah, when I saw that lineup, I was a little bit perturbed because I just think, you know, we don't know as much about football as Roberto De Zerbi, clearly. But
hold on.
I can't get into his head on James Milner as a fullback.
Well, the part I enjoyed most was about an hour or two before, maybe an hour before the lineups came out. There were lots of rumors circling from various accounts that maybe have, you know, bubbles in their name and stuff, telling us that Veltman wasn't going to start, and people were throwing their toys out the pram, and this is happening, this isn't happening. Turned out that was absolutely BS. And subsequent tweets have now been deleted. There's been some revisionist stuff that's been going on, which has been fun. But I mean, the thing is, like, you look at, back to what Josh was saying about the injuries, you look at the bench during that game and you say to yourself, you talked about Igor, but like, what else are you really doing with that lineup? Because at this point, you have to do some rotation, right? When you look at, you know, Ferguson wasn't starting and so on and so forth. But outside of that, we had Josh Duffus on the bench. Like, with all due respect, like, it's not like you've got this, like, you're not spoiled for choice here. So I thought it was fine. And as you say, we'll get into the performances, but Milner didn't have to do a lot, did he? I honestly think maybe one of us could have trotted out there at left back and done a job. So
I mean, I think the thing on Veltman as well is that I know he obviously came from Ajax, so there was obviously that level of interest in the press, but he did the pre-match press conference with De Zerbi, didn't he? Which generally is a pretty strong indicator that someone's going to be playing. I know, obviously, with the Ajax storyline, he was the player of interest to talk to, but I still don't think he'd have done the pre-match press conference if he then is on the bench.
No, but some guy with 300 followers that says he's never been wrong about a lineup said he wasn't starting. So,
well,
he was also the face of the program, so it really was as
all
like
of those things. It just adds up, and you go, it's not the fact that he came from Ajax isn't enough of a story on its own to dominate the program and the press conference. So,
yeah. Looking at the Ajax side, it was actually quite a bit stronger than the team that they rolled out away at Utrecht at the weekend. Berghuis was back in the squad. He didn't even make it prior. Obviously, Bergwijn and Brubby were up front as well. Obviously, what's his name? Sosa, one of their best players that they've got left, basically, after being pillaged in the summer. There were a lot of players in that squad, in that starting 11, that for me, I looked at it and thought, this is going to be like Athens counter-attacking hell if we fall into this trap, especially with Milner at left back. And by the time we got 45 minutes in, we realized pretty quickly that this was not going to be one of those days. By halftime, we had 60% possession, 9 shots to their 1, 4 of them on target. And I generally don't think I've seen a more toothless side come to the Amex this year. Luton were significantly more dangerous than Ajax were on Thursday.
I mean, I thought Grimsby gave it more of a go last season. And they lost 5-0.
This was akin to West Ham at the Amex last season when West Ham were at their lowest point and they just didn't look like they wanted to play. That was what they looked broken, Ajax.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I think that's probably a really good point to make because West Ham turned it around, obviously, subsequently, but I don't know when they're going to turn around in Amsterdam. But I don't think it's going to be soon enough to make it any better for them.
I think
come the reverse fixture, which is
confidence
great for us.
is bang on, isn't it? Because like every time they got the ball, their first priority was basically seemed to be either pass it back or don't lose it.
Yep. Keeper looked dodgy as well, didn't he?
Very
a bit dodgy.
And the funniest thing is Ajax fans mostly all over social media, like from Twitter to Reddit, like very different views on those different websites. But they all came to the same conclusion that they thought that was progress compared to their previous performances.
Wow, really?
Which is astounding.
Didn't they just get battered also like 4 days after by, was it PSV 5-2?
They did. And their run is not any easier. They have got 2 more games between us and their next. Well, they've got 2 games between our next game. They've got Volendam and Heerenveen at home. So they've got 3 games back to back at home. But there's no rest here. They've got 26th of October, 29th of October, 2nd of November, 9th, 5th of November, then the 9th of November against us. And
the game's in 10 days, right? The game's in 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. 10 days, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's bad.
That can be progress. I mean, they obviously they hadn't lost in Europe, right? 2 draws in the first 2 games. So I mean, that side they managed to score what? They managed to score 3 against Marseille, and they managed to score 2 against Athens, or 1 against Athens. Well, it was either 1-1 or 2-2. Don't know. But certainly the first game was 3-3, wasn't it? So how on earth that team managed to score 3 goals collectively across those games, let alone 1? I say I'm astounded that they think that's progress.
I mean, it just shows how poor they were, how poor they had been, really. But yeah, as you say, they did draw both games. I'm not sure what the exact results were, but their goal difference is 4 and 6, so it may well have been 2-2 draws, or was it a 3-3 and a 1-1?
I'm pretty sure the first one was a 3-3, so 1-1 is probably.
Yeah, so it's a 1-1 draw. Yeah. But man on the score sheet, as per usual, and current top scorer of the Europa League, the main man, João Pedro himself, gets a goal. Just how important is this lad going to be in terms of just going forward as a striking unit when you've got Ferguson, Fati, and him together? He's just I can't believe he's only 21 with how calm he is at times.
Yeah.
The pressure ever.
I mean, you need to keep him away. Try and get him banging chances in from 6 yards and out. It's probably going to be our route to success. I mean, I think he's better in that 10 role than he would be as an out-and-out striker. But he's got that instinct of he's popping up with goals when we need it, whether that's a penalty, whether it's that goal the other night. I mean, that was drifting towards that kind of that point where it's typical Albion. You've dominated absolutely everything. You've done absolutely everything other than put the ball in the back of the net. And then a minute before half time, you get suckered on the counter attack. And then suddenly the whole thing starts to look like it's built on sand. So, he's come up with a goal there that's changed the dynamic, hasn't it? Because Ajax's game plan goes out the window. Well, we thought Ajax's game plan would go out the window. Because to me, what they were obviously doing is they were trying to sit behind the ball and basically do to us what Athens did, which is just wait for us to piss around with the ball for ages, do nothing with it, hit us on the counter attack, get a goal, and then go back to defending really well. And we've got no idea. And, I assumed that was going to be their game plan. Obviously, they conceded a goal. So I thought, right, second half, they're going to have to come out and try and chase a goal. But obviously, they didn't. So that's a very long way of saying I agree with you. And João Pedro's got a very good habit of, popping up with goals when we need it, which is very useful.
Yeah, we also we can't forget, this is silly to say, but Ansu Fati is obviously a rental. And João Pedro is the guy for the foreseeable future, regardless if you're thinking about 9-10, playing on the wing, whatever. I actually really like him on the wing because I feel like he's, despite being a big guy, he's very tidy with the ball, isn't he? And he looks like he can always beat someone. So he's the one that you've really got to invest in for the future to be a star for this team, and he's showing that already, isn't he? Even with his youthfulness, I still don't know whether we've properly seen a brilliant performance where we've seen him and Ferguson play. Maybe I'm just not recalling it, but that's the one that we want to be able to unlock, isn't it?
Did he come on? He came on in the Newcastle. He came on in the Newcastle game, didn't he? I don't think he started. I don't think he started. But I think he was in. I think he came on when it was 1-0. Obviously, we won 3-0. I think, but no, I don't think it's one that we've sort of lauded. In theory, we've talked about.
I don't think we've ever seen them start together.
Because De Zerbi kept wanting to start Welbeck with Ferguson, didn't he? We're just oh god, no, stop.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say I'm absolutely with you on building the team around. I mean, we talked about him being Watford captain last season when he was 20 or whatever. I mean, there's an argument to suggest that he could be the Lewis Dunk successor as captain.
Yeah,
he's got the leadership qualities right at the Watford level, where he basically dragged them kicking and screaming to a top half finish. So it's there in him, and the leadership qualities of taking the pen in Marseille and coolly slotting it away. Like, he's obviously got that about him. Talking about current captain, fantastic. Let's give some plaudits to the pass that unlocked that defense right before halftime. It's something we see him do quite often, but on the European stage, it just makes it a little bit sweeter. Just how good was that pass on Thursday to basically unlock everything to put Mitoma in for the initial shot? Just,
outrageous. I mean, on the commentary, I think it was the same for Adam, but the UK commentary, they were constantly talking about him being in that quarterback role that we've talked about before, just being able to spray passes around. But that is, and we know he's got it in his locker, but that was about one of the best examples of it I can recall.
Is he not, to me, he's one of, if not the best, passer on our team, which is a bit silly to say. I feel like he can just pick out passes immediately. So sound on in the back. I'm trying to bring up the highlights. I don't know about anyone else, but as soon as I've watched another Albion game, the previous game, even though it was 3 days prior, I've forgotten every single thing about it. So Fulham is just deeply rooted in my brain now, and all I can remember from the other night is just James Milner not having anyone marking him for about 90 minutes. But no, I mean, how many times has he been able to pick out those kind of passes? And his long distance passing percentage and accuracy for every game for us this season is always remarkably good as well. He's just really good at it.
Yeah, when you see him hold that ball, and they just keep going forward, and forward and forward. At that point, like once they're fully settled back, and Ajax just did it constantly, like almost immediately settled back. Like he really was playing the quarterback role in terms of just sitting on the center circle, just picking his passes. And they allow him to do it. It's absolutely mental. If only his free kicks were as good as his passing.
Well, hold on. He did hit the bar, didn't he?
We're getting closer.
Yeah, we are getting closer. We are getting closer.
I was right behind that, and I turned to Britt and I said, "Please, someone take that ball off of this man." And then he clonked it off the bar, and I was like, "Well, I almost got done there, didn't I?"
I mean, I was thinking about this. Presumably, he must be really good at it in training. There's two scenarios. One, he's really good at it in training, and he just can't quite yet replicate it in the match. Or two, he's just like, "I'm the captain, piss off." I can't imagine it's the latter. He doesn't strike me as the type of person who's the latter.
How do we not have with all due respect to him, how do we not have a better free kick taker? Like who?
Well, surely. I mean, we do. I mean, Pascal Gross has battered one in. Was it against West Brom? There was definitely one.
He's done a few.
There was one at the Amex down at the south end. I think it was either like Southampton or West Brom a couple of seasons ago where he absolutely twatted it in. I mean, you'd have thought João Pedro, perhaps not Solly March. I mean, Ansu Fati, it's all sorts of people that you would imagine technique-wise would have it in their locker. But it's difficult because
it's weird, isn't it?
Because half of me is like, I want it to keep going because at some point it's going to go in and it will be beautiful. So half of me is like, it's worth the wait when it inevitably happens. But the other half of like the practical side is the one against, I can't get the one against Marseille out of my head, right? So you've just got the penalty, literally just got back to 2-2, and you've got this perfect position. You think if someone sticks this in the back of the net, given what happened in Marseille last night with the Lyon, like if that goes in the back of the net, there is going to be all-out warfare in Marseille. And he batters it into the wall and basically creates for them an opportunity to nearly win it at the end. So that's the trade-off, is that do you wait? Do we wait for the fact that at some point he's going to get a knuckleball into the top corner? I don't know.
It's turning into sort of the Cristiano Ronaldo sort of thing, because, you know, he's obviously like hogged free kicks for an unbelievable amount of time. And he's shit at them.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo is bad at free kicks, but he just likes his silly little stance with his legs wide. Now, what's he going to do? Oh, he's just going to smack it wide. Like we all know, apart from maybe he's down in the farming desert, like trying to strike one in because, you know, no one gives a crap and may as well. But like he's rubbish at them. I just hope we're not getting to a situation where it's just Dunk thinks he's the second coming of like the knuckleball free kick specialist. And meanwhile, we've got some like Ansu Fati could just curl one in.
Yeah. I mean, Dunk scored one at Anfield when no one was looking and he just passed it into the bottom corner, which is a million miles away from knuckleball into the top corner when everyone's looking and paying attention. So I'm hoping the whole theory isn't built on that one at Anfield when no one was watching.
He did the same against West Brom, didn't he? But then they disallowed it.
Oh, of course, that was in that. Yeah, that was that game.
And that should never have been disallowed as well.
That was a Simon Hooper classic, wasn't it? Oh no, Lee Mason, wasn't it? That was one.
Yes, it was Lee Mason.
Something else happened in that game, didn't it? Basically retired Lee Mason that game. Something else happened.
Well, who was the VAR at the weekend? Himself. We might be at another retirement coming up as well. I think we specialise in retiring, but let's not talk about that.
I know, but let's say it's a freak. It's bizarre that you've got so many people that can, in theory, hit the ball really well, and yet we just don't get. Yeah, we don't see anything else. But the flip side of that is how many players beyond you've basically got like players that come up to a free kick and you think there's a decent chance this is ending up in the back of the net. You've basically got Kieran Trippier, James Ward-Prowse, and there's not a huge number. Like it is difficult. Like it is difficult to be consistently threatening from a free kick situation. Like it's not like there are loads of people just popping them in for fun every week.
Madison, I would put Madison on that. Starting to become on that list now.
There's a small number.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just is it going to be worth the wait when he inevitably does score one? Probably when we're 5-0 down and it's a consolation goal. But...
So Mikey in the chat asked the question, and we've talked about it already a fair bit. So just a one-word answer from all three of us. Who would you want to take free kicks in those dangerous areas going forward?
Gross. I think Gross strikes the ball best on the team.
I think
Likewise.
I think it's got to be Gross.
So there's your answer, Mikey. Purvis is not the answer that any one of us gave. We all want Pascal Gross.
I think Purvis might be my last on the list. Maybe little Roberto Carlos style flair one, but I just see his ending just rocketed into the stands.
Yeah.
An outside shout for Billy Gilmore.
Hey, I can't say enough good things about Billy Gilmore. He can do whatever he wants.
What game was it where was it Liverpool game where he nearly scored an absolute rocket?
Yes.
Where it was suddenly like
he's had a few of them.
Where like you thought the technique is like, because that's really what you're looking for. I can see the logic for Dunk, because obviously we did talk about his passing range, and he's unbelievably accurate. So I guess, free kick wise, you're looking for someone who's got the ability to basically hit the top, to be able to go, okay, 9 times out of 10, I can put the ball in that area.
Yep.
And we know, it's bizarre because we know Dunk's got it from a long range passing perspective. So I can kind of see the logic for that. And I'm thinking vision wise, it's got to be, you're basically looking at people who are our most accurate passers, really. Gilmore, Gross, Dunk.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about this right now, but I do want to talk about the other set piece stuff in a bit, which is corners, because we can come on to it, but because it was especially apparent at the weekend as well.
Yeah, don't worry. That was on my list as well. We're getting there. But more importantly, Carlos Forbes subbed off at half-time, so intimidated by James Milner at left back. They had no choice but to try a different option along that side. I wish I hadn't started this one. They subbed on Christian Hlinson. That's what we're going with.
All I know is how the way you said it is not the way to pronounce it.
Yeah, absolutely not. But let's get on to the goal that came shortly afterwards and was probably one of the filthiest goals I've ever seen live in my life. I've seen a few nasty ones in the lower leagues that we've scored, and this one just about almost took it. Simon Adingra, who has came in to deputise Solly March, essentially. He definitely wasn't expecting the amount of game time he's had, especially not on the right wing, where he never has played before he came under Roberto De Zerbi. And he played the full 90 minutes this week against Ajax, was absolutely superb. And again, we talk about unlocking the defence. He was essentially responsible for putting Ansu Fati in a position where he had the opportunity to score. Fati's finish, we can see why, just a little snippet of why Ansu Fati was dubbed one of the next big things. He's still so young. He still very much can be one of the next big things. But that entire goal sequence in and of itself, right after half-time as well, super important to get that second one, because you saw any hope or dream they had just die out immediately. But just how good was that pass from Adingra, and how good was the finish from Ansu Fati as well? It was just sublime all the way through, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, it's one of those ones where actually he's got the presence of mind to realise that actually he doesn't need to take an extra touch. He doesn't need to mess around with it. He almost took the goalkeeper by surprise because he was able, I think it's the quality of the pass, he was able to basically get it out of his feet and put it in the bottom corner in effectively one motion, which is, I mean, it's world class. Nothing bad.
It was excellent. For me, though, the Adingra ball was better than the Ansu Fati take and finish, which I'm not trying to disrespect Fati because it was incredibly well done. But Adingra had to he had to juke the ball from like out of his feet to cut in from the right, to put it to his left side, and then to play this perfectly timed, weighted dink pass over a defender. Like, it was just absolutely superb for a guy that's, as you say, like 21 years old, wasn't expecting to have all this game time, playing essentially out of position from what he's used to. Just amazing. But yes, that's all well and good if you've got Neil Maupay trying to finishing it, and that's not happening, right? So it's fairly pleasant to have a guy that has world class quality, which is what Ansu Fati has. Not for 90 minutes, but he has those flashes, and we saw that.
And I think the one thing I'd add is, it's a little minor point, but he really enjoyed the goal as well. Like, he genuinely seems to like. enjoy being here. And we've had this in the past at the lower leagues. You know, we've had these kind of high-profile loan signings come in who almost give you the impression that they're doing you a bit of a favor. I mean, like Robbie Savage is the classic example of that. But he seemed like Ansu Fati seems to be someone who is genuinely enjoying it. And it's not like we've taken the superstar from Barcelona and parachuted him in and he's sticking out like a sore thumb. Like, I think it's credit to De Zerbi and everyone that he looks like, or he's starting to look like someone who's been here for a long time and looks like, you know what I mean? He's treating everyone as his equal. He's not looking like someone who's got £1 billion release clause and is here for a bit of a laugh. And I think his celebration sort of epitomised that, and I'm loving it.
I think it's hard not to enjoy being on a team that is as attacking as us when you play in that role. I think that always helps, right? When you get to just have fun out there. But I think it does come down to De Zerbi at the end of the day. Like, they all say it too. Like, it's hard not to give him credit when every player just waxes lyrical about Roberto De Zerbi every moment they get in front of a microphone.
And his voice note, right, is now the moment for his voice note.
Oh, that was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what a far cry, right, from where we've come from, right? Like, I'm sure Houghton felt that way, but he would never have really vocalized it because he was such a different kind of manager. And I think we're all very aware of how Potter felt about the Albion fan base, even before his meltdown at the Leeds draw. He was never particularly fond of the entire situation. Even when he had all the support in the world, he didn't seem particularly enamored with the Albion support. So to go to such an extreme difference again, with, again, like one of the most vocally, like, just loving of the fan base since Poyet, really. Like, he's very open about it. And it's just nice, isn't it? Like, it's nice to know that even though he comes from such a different world in Brescia and has done some crazy things in totally different countries, and the experiences he's had, like with the Ukraine situation and stuff, just in recent years, right? Like being in the middle of a war zone, trying to get his players out before he went out. Like, he's done a lot, he's seen a lot, and yet, like, he really gets it. Like, that's wild to me that he can do that. But like, it's amazing, isn't it, to have it doesn't matter whether he's here another 3 years or just until the summer. Like, it's just nice to have someone who really, really gets it.
And I think it's testament to, I think, as ever, everything flows from Tony, doesn't it? Like, Tony's obviously given him the perfect environment to go, look, Roberto, you get on with whatever you need to do, mate. Simple as that. Paul Barber obviously looks after the kind of the admin side of it. But I think from a football point of view, I mean, I said the same when Potter was here, and I know we're biased, but I don't see a better working environment if you're a manager in the Premier League than working for Tony Bloom. Like, I've tried to be as objective. Like, I've thought about it. I've tried to be as objective as possible. Bizarrely, maybe Eddie Howe actually has got the set. It's got similar at Newcastle. They seem to be letting him get on with it. But if you are, if you're Roberto De Zerbi, like, you're gonna. I know
the consequences for failure are a bit worse.
There's always a risk of a little visit to the Turkish embassy, isn't there?
Well, you said it. But yeah, I think it's, I think objectively that is, it's what Tony has been cultivating for the last decade. And it just happened, we've talked about it. All the steps that have happened have led to us having De Zerbi now. But like the culture that's been created, all of that. Like, it's similar to you just said, Josh, how could Ansu Fati not enjoy playing in a team that's so attacking? Like, if you're a manager, how could you not enjoy managing in a culture that Tony's created with, the success in the transfer market? Obviously, you'd have the frustration of knowing that, your big players are going to go at some point. But if I was a manager, it's like, and you were trying to build your perfect environment to work in, beyond obviously having a blank checkbook or a bigger checkbook, I don't think there's much else you could wish for.
Well, Ansu Fati's got Casa Don Carlos as well, so he probably feels perfectly at home. Get a little tap pass when he needs. No, I do think there's some level of like importance as well, just in terms of how the mentality and the persona of the manager matches up or balances out the way the fan base and the community acts. And I guess what I mean by that is we're broadly not like a crazy, rowdy, ultra-based fan group, right? It's not like Christ. If you look at what's going down in that Marseille-Lyon thing the other night, where they're freaking smashing the windows of the buses and making the opposition coach go to hospital and get stitches, you're not going to get that in Brighton. So in some ways, having a very, very outspoken, emotional manager elevates our sort of emotion towards the club in some ways. And I think that's when you go through the years of the Potter and we saw no emotion, it's almost like we end up this sort of like subdued club, and you get smooth, easy football out of that. But I don't know, I feel like there's just way more passion that you get from someone like De Zerbi. Now, if you're managing Marseille, if you're managing Napoli and you're bringing a personality like him, well, suddenly you're creating this absolute volcano of emotion, and you don't want that. You need someone more level-headed.
It's a brilliant
point. He works perfectly for us.
No, it's an absolutely brilliant point, because if you stretch this back, so obviously you've got the Potter rocks up, back at the Amex having left, and gets his ass handed to him basically, and all of the atmosphere that comes with that. Can you imagine if that happens one cycle back? So Chris Hughton gets poached by Chelsea or somebody else, and Graham Potter's his replacement. Can you imagine Potter stirring up the atmosphere to deliver something?
He couldn't fucking stir up a soup, could he?
You know what I mean? It's a brilliant point, because actually, whilst De Zerbi wasn't really directly doing anything to stir that up, the fact that his personality almost kind of oozes out into the fan base. You're like, okay, this guy is like up for it, so we need to be up for it to like not do him down. It's brilliant. I'd say I hadn't thought of it before, but it's a brilliant point.
Yeah, agreed. All right, rest of the game, pretty chill. Really, not much to follow up on from there, other than them crashing it off the post almost immediately after the goal. Something we're still a little bit dodgy about, aren't we? Right after scoring, but we got away with it, and from then on, they did counter attack with a little bit more purpose, but realistically, it didn't look very dangerous at all for the rest of the game.
No.
And
Chuba Akpom came on and managed to get the first offside of the game within about 30 seconds of coming on, which I quite
just
enjoyed.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, the guy that you said came on at half time, I think this in the commentary, he'd scored 2 at the weekend. And he looked a bit more dangerous than obviously what they'd had in the first half. And their right back, whose name escapes me, seems to be the only one that had a
Sosa.
Kept Matoma pretty quiet. Relatively
He's
quiet.
The Chuba Akpom had 0 touches as well, by the way. So he managed to get drawn offside and then did nothing. Didn't even touch the ball for 20 minutes of football. Absolutely amazing. Full time goes, huge 3 points for the Albion. Puts us at, I think we're now third in the group.
Because it's head-to-head, not goal difference.
Yes.
So we're behind AEK on head-to-head. But
with some great fixtures ahead of us, because Ajax are right around the corner again. That's the game you want to be playing next, right out of the 3. You want to keep them here where they are. And then finishing at home to Marseille is really the best choice, right? You get a home game to round off.
The away in Athens one is the one that's going to give me emotional damage.
I think you're right. I think it depends. I think if we go to Ajax and get a win, then that game becomes a lot more comfortable. Because I think realistic looking at it, I think 5 points. Well, it depends if you're targeting top or going through. I think if you finish top, you basically skip a knockout round, don't you?
Yes, because it's a playoff round. Yeah,
because otherwise, if you finish second, you get a club that's dropped out of the Champions League. But if you finish top, you then go straight into the last 16, I guess.
Is that so? All right, okay.
So it makes finish. It's a big incentive to finish. Basically, you want to finish first or third. Like if we want the European run to last, first or third.
Well, what happens with third?
Because you drop into the Conference League. So where you would have thought you'd then have a longer run, easier games, longer run, but then we'd probably draw Villa. Well, just
immediately get beaten.
Immediately empty it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But yeah, I think I think if we win in Ajax, top of the group becomes very much a possibility. So it will then dictates how much you go for it.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Any other players you want to call out for the Ajax performance in specific?
I know you talked about him being muted a little bit, but I actually thought Matoma was probably our best player on the pitch. In terms of everything good that happened, for the most part, seemed to, as per usual, stem from him. And I think we've seen games where Matoma has been completely cut out of the game, whether that's because they brought someone over and just dropped deeper on the right side and just had two people on him. But I thought he was actually really good. I thought Milner did a decent job of opening up space for him and time and passes to him. And I think in terms of like stats to actually back that up, he had the most key passes on the team. He had the joint most dribbles. Like good stuff happened when we got him the ball. Shocker, I know. But I think it was a good enough performance where De Zerbi came out afterwards, right, and was just waxing lyrical about him, saying he's underappreciated, he's underrated, he's way better than anyone is even giving him credit for at the moment. So no, I thought it was especially good.
Safe to say you're man of the match then?
Yeah, because it was one of those ones where the opposition didn't give enough grit and determination to really bring out the best of any of our players, frankly. Like it was just broadly like a professional performance for the most part.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, there were certain bits of it where it became like a friendly, didn't it? There were certain passages where it just like, particularly when we were 2-0 up, it was like no one's heart was particularly in it. We didn't really want to get out. There was no point getting out of second or third gear. Fatu came off. It became a bit. It was a bit bizarre.
Exhibition.
It was our first ever European win, but actually it became like, I don't want to say it was dull, but there was like the latter stages of it. It became like one of those games where you think, just blow the final whistle now.
Well, speaking of which, should we talk about the fact that there's a lot of rage bait going around about people leaving the game early?
I mean, I hate that. I get it because the transport at the Amex is absolutely woeful. Like leaving 5 minutes before the end of the game, if you're traveling back, like obviously Josh's distance or anything like that, leaving 5 minutes early can have an impact of like an hour plus a couple of hours on when you get back. So whilst I hate the concept, like it's that classic theatre example, like would you go to the movies or would you go to the theatre and you leave like 5-10 minutes before the end? It seems bizarre, but I get it from a transport. I mean, I've done it myself, commuted plenty of times doing that, and I get it. But on scenarios where it is a historic occasion, like you can only win for the first time in Europe once, right? It's one of those games where you think you'd want to soak up the atmosphere, but it's particularly shit because it's the way that the camera is. It's the East Stand that you see, and the East Stand is the worst for it happening, being the family, particularly a night game if you've got young kids with you, and 5 minutes is going to make the difference between getting home in an hour or getting home in 3 hours. I totally understand it, but it's
it's always the travel though. It is purely comes down to travel.
100%.
Some people just don't have if the stadium was slap bang in the middle of Brighton, the stadium would be full until right at the end.
Yeah, but if you give people the option,
I'm still not sure it would. I think inevitably there's always going to be early leavers wherever you are who want to get that edge.
Just not on the scale that we get.
I agree.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be as visible on the TV cameras. Yeah, well, you're just like, it's a bit embarrassing.
Let's just have the TV cameras on the other side, and then it's fine.
Don't solve the problem, just mask it. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
You considered running for government?
Any government.
It doesn't matter.
It's all eligible.
Yeah. It's difficult. It is. I mean, like, especially, and it's always worse on night games because of just the transport being worse. But yeah, if you knew that you could leave your seat at the final whistle or 5 minutes after the final whistle, and you could be on a train, within half an hour, then you're taking that every time.
This wouldn't happen in America because what they do is they just concrete half of the South Downs and make it into a parking lot, and then
And
it'd be
flatten it.
fine. It'd be able to get out. Yeah.
But it is one of those. I mean, it's difficult because if you were to, we're going back to like 2003 public inquiries here, but it's not the ideal spot for a stadium transport wise, but
Well, I think it's
we've
an
got to the point
understatement.
now where, to be honest, if the worst thing we're whinging about is transport away from the ground at the end of the game, then we're doing all right. But I mean, you've got to have thought the club at some point will have approached Network Rail and gone, look, we've got Premier League money. Can we give a little bit here to upgrade the infrastructure so that we can have 12-car trains instead of whatever it is, 3 or 4, if you're lucky.
It doesn't matter, especially because it's a privatized system. You think that? I mean, just
Stephen's
throw
right.
money at them.
Like, I mean, we need like a Simpsons monorail, right? I mean, this is going to solve it. A monorail literally going.
Bring in a monorail guy.
Yeah,
I would love a Simpsons monorail. I would use it every
that gets
time.
signed off doing it. Area of outstanding natural beauty. Just pop a little monorail on it.
Just camouflage it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Paint it green. It'll be fine.
Just green it all.
Run it on chip fat or whatever. Yeah, it's all right.
But it is. I mean, it is. I mean, I think there will be a lot of people. I mean, I think Josh is right. There'll be a certain element of people who it's just ingrained in them for whatever reason that they're going to leave early, and they're just, you kind of forget about that. But there will be people who are leaving early. It's not their, they're leaving early because they've balanced it up and gone.
But this is when we're winning as you say, this is an historic occasion. We're winning. It's not like we're down 5-1.
No, I know.
The weather was nice too, by the way. Like, don't get me wrong, Athens I could understand because it was torrential downpours and I stood in that rain for an hour.
Yeah.
And I have never felt so ill in my life after standing in that rain, literally just post-COVID. I get it. But it was a really lovely night. Like, there was no need to rush to avoid rain, this, that, and the other. Like, you're gonna get back in the same amount of time regardless, almost, unless you really do manage to sprint and be there on that very first train. If you're not, there could be 2 cancelled after it. We saw it. We see it.
Yeah, you've got no benefit then. You're right. It's a total gamble on, can I get on the first train? Otherwise,
I mean, I will have no apologies for it. Anybody who doesn't like it can fight me. I will leave Villa at 5-1 down. I don't care. I paid my money. I've been scammed out of it, and we've been beaten 6-1, and I left at 5-1, and I got home about 25 minutes quicker. And I have no apologies for that. 2-0 up at home in Europa League, however, does feel a little bit different.
To the 4-time European champion.
Like, if you're leaving a 5-1, 6-1 drubbing early, if you're leaving just any of those sort of games when you go all the way up north and you've been battered 4-0 and the team have looked pathetic, I can understand walking out. I really can. I remember going to Crewe years and years ago, and I feel like 75% of the fans walked out, and I think it was Mark McGee's last or second to last game before the whole just insurrection internal.
The only time I've nearly done it was West Ham away. We ended up losing 6-0 under Poyet, and we were 3-0 down after 12 minutes. And I was like, the seat in the pub that we've just left will still be warm at this point. Like, we could do this. But yeah, I mean, it's only ever really when you're getting absolutely battered and there's some good reason for doing it. But I mean, if you can't stay at the end of the game and lap up beating Ajax in a competitive game, and not beating them, they've not laid a glove on us. What are you even doing? What are you going to enjoy? I mean, if you're not going to stay after that game and soak that up,
bring back Gully's girls at the end. Maybe that'll make a difference.
Maybe that'll be it. I mean, I know someone who left the Wigan promotion game before the end.
Highly controversial take. Almost lost my headphones. The absolute chauvinism and sexism on display to want to have a bunch of cheerleaders back.
Anyway, a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on before we get to Fulham, because we're going down into dangerous territory. For the 23-24 season, Together BHA is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sports venues are showing every televised Brighton fixture over the course of the season. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream, get your mates together and get down to your local Green King pub and get closer to the action. This season, Green King have launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, which is going to be the home to fan content, deals and competition throughout the season. They've already given away Champions League final tickets and signed shirts, so it's not something you really want to miss out on, especially as our foray into Europe continues. There is a very good chance that there may well be competitions for tickets away to wherever you want to go, really. So drop them a follow on Instagram. You won't just be the first to know about all this. You'll be helping us out at Together BHA as well, as we're also trying to grow our Instagram content in case Elon pulls the plug on whatever fake website he's got created these days with stupid alphabet names. So moving on to stupid rich owners, Tony Khan and Fulham came to the Amex this weekend, and they have become a bit of a Premier League bogey team. No wins in 6 at all since coming into the Premier League. And they're not particularly very good, are they? And the game itself wasn't particularly very good. But let's talk about it because we've got to. This is what we do. So a couple of changes. I think it was 6 in the end to the starting lineup. Adam Lallana in, Ferguson in, Baleba in, Dahoud in, Webster in as well. But the biggest change of all, one to really talk about, 3 at the back, boys. We've talked about this a number of times, the fact that he did do this at Sassuolo on occasion for decently extended periods, and we were all a little bit perplexed as to why he's never just rolled one out. Well, Sunday against Fulham, he did. Igor at left centre-back, Dunkey in the middle, and Adam Webster at the right side. Adingra and Mitoma very much playing winger, not wing back. This was no Potter 3 at the back. This was very much a De Zerbi version of it. Obviously, we're going to span the whole 90 here on this opinion, but what did you two make of that 3 at the back formation? What did you like? What didn't you like? Would you like to see it going forward? What are your thoughts, feelings, concerns on all of this?
Well, do you want to talk about VAR for 30 minutes or 45 minutes just before we get into the lineups? Because I need to block some time out. No,
we will get to that. Unfortunately,
I don't want to. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about any of it. I think that the lineup was weird. I'll be honest with you. For the first 20 minutes, I was just looking at it and I was just saying I don't really understand what formation we're playing. Like, obviously, I got that it was 3 at the back, but normally you're playing 3 at the back with 2 wing backs. We were just basically playing 3 at the back, and then everyone else was just pushed up. We were playing the most aggressive 3 at the back formation I've seen in recent memory. It was just gung ho. Now I don't want to go back and now think, oh, you know what? Because of the result and what happened, it didn't work. Because obviously we did switch to 4 partway through the game as well. We went back to a bit more of a traditional setup at one point. It worked. What didn't work was some of the execution at the other end of the pitch. But we were dominating Fulham. Fulham were nowhere for most of that first half. So to say that it wasn't a good idea and it didn't work, I think was fine. And let's face it, what else is De Zerbi going to do at this point? You can only put players in certain positions based on what we've got left. And he clearly didn't feel like we had the right people with the right level of fitness to play a 4 at the back for 90 minutes. And I don't think it was a disaster. The first half was not a disaster at all. And spoiler alert ahead of time here, I thought Igor was absolutely phenomenal. Despite a lot of other deficiencies we had in that game, he looks like the part for me. And as Mikey has said, Webster seemed to play well. I think if you actually weirdly want to talk about a slight weak point in the defensive line that we had, it was probably Lewis Dunk, bizarrely. But I thought it worked really well. It worked for the personnel.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. I didn't hate it as a concept. And, you know, if we were, I mean, it's a couple, I'm going to come on to it. I mean, it's either it's either a second goal or a competent refereeing decision away from working.
Yeah.
Simple as that, really.
Yeah.
I didn't hate
Yeah.
it. I'd echo Igor was great. I'd echo it.
I thought he was amazing. Brit,
I thought Webster
loves him
was
too.
all right. So.
Watch out, because he's a pretty attractive man, isn't he? Like he's
I don't even think she's even looked at his face yet. She's just like, he's massive, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, that's all. That's all you need. Yeah,
it's just like he sticks out like a sore thumb as well. Like it's just so big. Like he just bodies people out of the way, and it makes me
tidy going forward. He was a big part of the.
He likes
goal.
to go forward too.
I mean, it's the Dan Burn theory, isn't it, of fullbacks? Like you can kind of see why Zerbi's maybe gone, I can't pick this bloke at fullback because he's just massive. Yeah, but he looks really comfortable on the ball. You know, I had no concerns. But yeah, I'm with Adam. I don't want to talk about anything else to do with the Fulham game because you know.
There's only one other thing I think that's worth talking about, which we will get on. Ferguson's finish was stunning.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he needed a goal, right? I hadn't scored in the Newcastle game, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's been I think it's the second time this season, but I think it's the third time he's done it. The sheer power he gets with a precision type FIFA-esque finesse finish from outside of the box is just I've never seen anything like that.
No,
I know
not
a
many
lot of
people do that.
I know a lot do compare him to Baby Kane, basically, the people that are like absolutely loving life about him and thinking he's going to be like the next big thing, right? But like I've not seen Kane whip one of those in those low-driven but also finesse goal. Like feels like a cheat code.
His second goal against Newcastle was the one that was just perfect, and it took literally everybody in the stadium by surprise.
Yep.
It's such an important skill to have. I mean, it'll become more difficult for him because people will anticipate the danger more and will arguably try and defend against him in a different way. But he's probably good enough that he can just swap them aside and do it anyway. But loving technique-wise, it's flawless, isn't it?
Yeah, it was outrageous. The equaliser, we fell victim a little bit to the classic Albion mantra of not just booting it the F away. There was several times where it was just like, just yeet it, get rid of it. And eventually it fell to Paulinho, who, fair play, great goal, well hit. But
is it fair play though?
Well, no, that's the unfortunate part, right? So let's revert back to where we were always going to end up for the majority of this review. The fact that Paulinho's finish, although excellent, should never have existed because he should never have been on the pitch. Can anybody explain to me how VAR checked that and considered it fair and normal and a non-issue of a challenge? Because we've seen a couple of just shocking VAR calls this weekend alone, where they took literally 5 minutes to make a VAR call that still wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can't be sure, right? If you've took 5 minutes over something on an offside call, your call is not going to be a short one. You literally cannot. And I think they took another 3.5 minutes in the Newcastle game for a penalty call that should never, and they got it wrong. This one, all of 0.3 seconds, check. How is Paulinho on the pitch?
I mean, I was coming back in the car, so I was sort of listening to updates on the radio at this point, so I didn't see it live. But the guy, they went on the radio station to obviously the guy who was at the game covering it, and he summed it up pretty well, which is that he said it would have been a red card in the Rugby World Cup final the day before. Like, I've watched it from Craig's tweet. I've watched it a dozen times, and it's one of the most obvious red cards I think I've ever seen. Like, ever. In any game at any level. How it's not, it's like, you can see it's the classic, because in these situations, what you have is you have to go, does he know where the other player is? You're like, is he jumping? Is it, you know what I mean? Is it he's caught him by accident and he just doesn't know where the player is? That you can see him take a little look to see where Pascal Gross is. Like, it's what are they watching? There's only three conclusions that you can draw. One, they saw it and they're just so unbelievably corrupt that they decided, nah, not for me, mate. Allegedly. Two, they're just not very good at their job. But anyone who's been watching football longer than about 3 seconds would know that that's not acceptable on a football pitch, let alone someone who's probably spent decades getting to the point of being a referee or a VAR in the Premier League. Or three, they didn't see it.
Go on.
Or three, they didn't see it, and they're watching something else. It's unexplainable.
I've watched this replay about 50 times, but I want to watch it now to just bring the anger back. And the thing is, he's gross turned him, isn't he?
Yeah.
And so he's duped him, and then fully elbowed him in the face.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't normally in these scenarios you'd be like, okay, well, corruption, yeah, okay, probably not the corruption. Let's take off the tinfoil hats, like whatever. Okay, but so normally you'd be like, it's probably the simplest version of events that they're just shit at their jobs. But I don't know how a level of incompetence can be this high, not just at a job, but just providing you have eyes to see this, right? Because even if if you've never watched football before, if you've never seen it, and you're just like, all right, 5-year-old kid, have a look at this. Do you think this is allowed in the game? And they'd probably be like, well, no, that doesn't seem okay. Anyone with a semi-functioning brain, and even I would say partial vision. Like I would say, like maybe you need the super thick lenses, and no judgments here, like the really big ones. Maybe you've got one eye, the depth isn't there. You would still send him off every single day of the week. I cannot fathom. I don't think they're corrupt. I think they're bad at their jobs, but this is beyond the pay.
That's what I say.
Bad at the job.
They have to have not actually looked at it.
That's just what they're playing like Snake on their showing age here. But what they must be like doing something.
Oh yeah, you've got a decision to make, and they've just gone, oh yeah, check.
Yeah, mate, it's probably fine. Yeah. He's doing something else. They must be doing something else.
Gone. It's not in either box. Can't be that important. Like it is unbelievable. And I'm with you. Like you don't even need to know the rules of the game. It's like a basic: can you elbow someone in the face in pretty much any contact sport and get away with it? Certainly not outside of the ring.
Paulinho was a rat the rest of the game as well, by the way. Like not just that particular moment. He is a ratty little player. And it's just, I know you can never, in these situations, it's very hard to be like, well, if the right decision was made, we would have won the game, because you never know that. But I tell you what, in this particular instance, I would bet a lot of money, because he's literally the guy that scored the goal. So it's not
even that. Like, if we'd have won that game 1-0, right, we'd still be talking about that not being a red card.
When you get unanimous support from every fan base of any club, even the club you're facing, saying it was a very clear red card, and most people saying it was actually probably like a multi-game ban offense, like, something bizarre has occurred. I still don't, I can't comprehend the fact that you've got everyone's shirt sponsor is sponsored by a gambling company. You've got people whose livelihoods depend on all this happening, and these stupid decisions made by a bunch of merry dickheads that don't know what they're doing. Like it's a farce. It's a farce. Like, you can't allow this to happen. If anyone else did their jobs this badly with this level of incompetence, you'd probably have to be in the Tory government.
But like, what is Howard Webb's because like he comes out, they either release the audio, he comes out and gives some explanation. Like, what is going to be his explanation for that? oh yeah, they looked at that and they decided blatant assault is now in the laws of the game.
I mean, they've got.
What do you
records,
think,
right?
Josh?
Like, I'm eagerly awaiting to hear what these refs have made of it. Your Mike Deans that are like now like soaking in the spotlight for their like corporate checks and stuff. Like, I can't wait to see what they all say about it. Because I need to hear what nonsense they're going to come out with to protect this one, because they always do, right? They always find a way, and this one is so uniquely obnoxious in the challenge that was made. I mean, it wasn't even a challenge, right? Like, it was just an assault, and like, it was just bad. So I just can't wait to hear how they inevitably spin it. I do love that Garth Crooks put Paulinho in his team of the week this week, which really just summarizes how keen these guys are to just totally pretend these things don't happen.
His name seems fairly apt, doesn't it, Crooks? Yeah, but this is, to me, this is worse than the Liverpool decision with the VAR screw up, because at least there, even though it was absolutely madness, and you could be like, okay, what are you doing, you idiots? You can at least understand how the communication breakdown happened. And you then like, okay, hold on. Well, the guy thought he was affirming a decision rather than changing the outcome of it. And they got confused. God, these people are incompetent and stupid, but at least we can understand it. And maybe they can fix that in the future. This is just pure like idiocy. Like, there's no like, oh, you know what? Maybe they said the wrong thing. No, this is just a guy. Yeah, the check is clear. Don't worry about it. Well, how can you not like pause? How can you not just get the guy to like even take a moment? They cleared it within 5 seconds. I don't understand. What's the point?
What is the point? Because like, if decisions like that are going to get missed, then genuinely, what's the point?
Yeah,
game's gone.
And I say, I'll only reiterate that it's not even. This has no bearing on the result, other than the fact obviously he scored the goal. Even if he doesn't score the goal, it's still 1-1, or indeed we win the game. The level of discussion is still the same. This is not a sour grapes, we didn't win the game, he scored the goal discussion. It's, you know,
no, we weren't good enough.
No, but if we'd have won the game 5-0 and he didn't get sent off, and that still happens to Pascal Gross, we're still talking about it.
Yep.
But you know, it's hardly cropped up in any of the media reports.
That is what is shocking to me. Like,
Match of the Day mentioned it. It got mentioned on Match of the Day too, fairly briefly. But the other match reports that I've kind of skimmed through, The Guardian, who are normally very good on our games, particularly, not mention of it as far as I could see.
Why is that? Just not big enough of a deal.
Maybe not.
People are bored of it.
Probably column inches. It's not. It's not enough. If that happens in the Manchester derby, then it's getting talked about everywhere. And that's not even a. It's not even a kind of, we're not in the top six. It's just Brighton against Fulham. It's probably not getting the column inches that other games are getting. But still, in a game where relatively not much happened outside of there, but it's not like it was a game packed full of incidents and this, pardon the pun, got elbowed out. There's not much beyond the 2 goals. This is the only other thing that you talk about. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's baffling.
It really is.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think we'll get an explanation from Howard Webb and the gang, because I don't see how they can give any explanation that doesn't make them look like they just don't know what they're doing. Because like, what explanation can you go, oh, actually, we thought it was a fair challenge, or we thought it was accidental. Like, that would be the best that they could come up with, to go, oh, we thought it was accidental. That is literally all that is all they can come out and say.
But it's just so patently not.
I know,
because he led with it.
Yeah,
like,
I know,
it was
I know.
just so. But I think that is the only
that
option.
Is literally all they can get. That is the only thing that they could. That's the only thing they could come out with. Even though it doesn't make sense, that's the only thing they could come out with that in theory would make sense. But even then, to take that conclusion, is clearly not right. But what else? What else can you say? Like,
sorry, we've employed a bunch of dipshits. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I can't even be that. It's such a bad decision. I can't even be that angry about it. Just because it's just like it's laughable more than anything else.
And of course, he scores the winner there. That's the thing, right? Of course, he's the one that scores the peach, and
Yeah,
he's the most important player to that team. You remove him from the thing, we probably cruise to a little 3-0. Lovely,
yeah.
tidy little win. Move on.
Yep.
Everyone's happy. But no, it's a shot. It's just even
What can be? What do they have to look at the owners or the fan groups? Just have to like create some like union and march on, like I don't know what you can actually do. What can you do?
It is weird though, isn't it? That Brighton and Wolves, after last year, having both won the Apology League together, are now continuing to run away with that lead again this year. Like, that makes me think that there's more than just being dumb. That makes me think that, not tinfoil hat levels, but I think there is an unconscious bias situation going on.
You know what it also
but
is?
I don't know why that would even, like, Brighton and Wolves are nothing fucking like each other. Like,
no, but also,
like,
I think it's because we don't kick up as much of a fuss about it. Because, every time we've had this thing, but it's come out and, we've gone, basically we've accepted the apology, blah, blah, blah. Like Jurgen Klopp's out there demanding games being replayed. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, considering how much we've been on the end of stuff like this, and I'm not suggesting the club necessarily go to that level, but we seem to take the decisions annoyingly in like an adult way that you kind of want the club to do. You'd want them to be grown up about it. But when the impact is actually, maybe we need to be taking more of a stand about it, a more vocal stand about it. Because every time you're nice about it, then where's the incentive for them to do something else different in the future? They go, oh no, Brighton will be fine about it.
This was Peter Banks as well as the VAR. In this year, he's only been a VAR. This is his specialty.
I know.
This is Mr. VAR. This is all he does.
I mean, it's
whatever. What else can we say?
No, there's nothing.
Stupid.
I mean, we could talk about this for hours, and there's nothing else to say.
No one wins here.
No,
not at all. Well, I mean, the only people that win really are the Premier League, isn't it? Because they get people talking about it, and they think that the idea is probably any press is good press, right? Any attention is good attention. Keeps people talking. Talking about bad attention. Everton next weekend. Very, very patchy team. Loss, win in their last 6. Nice and consistent from Sean Dyche and the team. Obviously, the last time we played them, they absolutely dicked us. 5-1, or was it 5-2? 5-1, I think. And really was a precursor to the West Ham drubbing we also got this year, and the Villa one we got this year as well. They were the architects of our destruction for 3 games, really. They are not a good team, but neither were Fulham. That didn't stop them anyway. Sitting on 10 points from 10 games. 3 wins, 1 draw, 6 losses. They are basically only where they are due to the fact that they're actually half decent away from home. Their home form is absolutely shocking. My cat just launched a plug on the floor for no reason at all. They have won 1, lost 4 at Goodison. What are we thinking here? Do you think we'll stick with the 3, or do you think we put Liverpool favourite James Milner at left back again? What are we thinking here to wrap the pod up as to what?
No,
you think
I think one of Purvis or Lamptey is going to be fit.
Okay, they are both close, yeah.
Especially with there being no midweek game here. I think one of them's going to be fit for that game. And I suspect the one who's not fit will then be fit for the Ajax game. So I'm expecting there not to be James Milner. And if he is in there, I'll be going for a walk for an hour and 50 minutes and then coming back.
Funny enough, that's what he'll be doing for the most part as well. Everton are crap. And I know they've won, as you said, but look, there's, as we said, no winner in the VAR conversation. There's no winner in a Dyche versus Moyes game. And that is like the thing, anti-football game that there possibly could be, West Ham versus Everton. They still, stats-wise, even though West Ham lost, they had 64% possession. But in the entire game, there were 6 shots on target. Like those were just pitiful teams slamming the ball. Let's not forget, Everton lost at home to Luton.
Yeah,
you cannot lose to that team. I think they got their wins against Brentford away, or when Brentford were in their really, really nasty, like bleak patch.
Yeah, that horrible patch. Yeah.
Who else did they get a victory against? Bournemouth. Like big whoop about that. This is not a good team. The side they put out against West Ham, despite getting a win, was pathetic.
I mean, Calvert-Lewin just had one of his days where he was.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, they're playing Nathan Patterson. Didn't know he was a footballer. Mikalenko, rubbish. Branthwaite, rubbish. Dwight McNeil, rubbish. Jack Harrison, James Garner. These are just this is bottom tier fodder relegation side.
Where they are. I mean,
they're not good enough.
The only thing it'll obviously be their first home game since Bill Kenwright died. So that will be the only, whether there's some kind of, momentum.
It worked for Man U with Bobby Charlton.
Yeah, it's whether they get some kind of momentum from that scenario.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Rest in peace, I hope we absolutely smash them. So.
It will have been quite far long ago. Like, it's already been, it will have been 2.5 weeks by that point.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. I mean, if they couldn't put any decent performances in whilst he was actually there watching it, then what chance have they got when he's not? Is
Yeah.
No, we should be expecting. We should be expecting 3 points against Everton. We should be expecting 3 points against Ajax. We should be expecting 3 points against Sheffield United.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go. It's a minimum 7 to 9 points, isn't it?
Yep, I agree. All right, fellas. Love it.
Right.
Love a little Monday afternoon chat. So we will be back. Oh, Adam.
I've got one more thing that you don't want to discuss. It's one last brief bit, but people are mouthing off and the knives have come out for Facundo Buonanotte. Have you seen all this stuff?
No.
Yeah.
I thought he played well at Central.
Nah, everyone's saying he's not good enough and he needs to go on loan. That's the latest online on the internet.
I think he would. I think if we hadn't been in Europe, he would have gone out on loan. So I'm not agreeing with the criticism. I'm just saying I think a loan move probably would have been.
Yeah, and I think if Enciso was fit, he probably also wouldn't have a look in either. And Adingra's playing well.
Yeah, but he's not. I mean, he's another one. He's 18. What are people expecting?
Exactly. But
he's clearly good enough. I mean, he's been in the full Argentina squad, hasn't he?
But you've got March and Enciso injured. He wouldn't probably have much game time at all, would you? But I don't think. I think it's fair to say that he's probably not a player that you're confident starting at the moment. He's not delivering necessarily particularly well off the bench, but we've also got very high standards of what our youngsters can do. But at the same time, again, he shouldn't really be expected to be doing. We're playing him out of necessity.
When else are you going to blood him though? I mean, it's not like, these games are like Ajax, you're already 2-0 up, the game's already done.
Yeah.
These are the games to give him a chance in.
Yeah, agreed.
Otherwise, you get into this circle, you go, but he's rubbish because he's not playing. But then when is the fan base happy for him to play? Because to be honest, there's no point playing in the third round game against a championship team. Great, he'll get minutes out of it, but what's he going to benefit in terms of getting used to playing against the quality of player that he's got to play against every week in the Premier League? You've got to be picking the moments to give him games against Ajax. It's the same thing. Like, you either with De Zerbi, you either trust him to do the right thing or you don't. You can't cherry pick instances where you think he's got it right or got it wrong. Like he is going to be using him when he thinks it's best, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Who else does he bring on?
For what it's worth, I thought he was very good in the middle.
In the middle,
I can understand the lack of excitement seeing him roll out at right wing, because I feel it too. He doesn't feel like he's really going to perform any miracle out there. He doesn't have the pace first and foremost, right? Like he's not a rapper. He's not an Adingra, right, or in Mitoma where he can just burst past players. No. And he's not yet a Grealish type player that has the technique levels to be able to send someone one way or the other, or Pascal Gross even, right? Like where the Gross term buys him enough time to make a delivery into the box. He was dubbed like one of the next best things in Argentina by Messi and Tevez, I think. And both of them, talked about his time in Argentina. And when he played there, he played more behind the striker. Like he played more in the Messi role, right? Like the 10, the classic 10. And for the 15 minutes I saw him play there against Ajax, I actually thought he was very good. But I also am very cognizant of the fact that Ajax are absolutely dog shit. So what does that mean? Like, I don't know. And when you've got Ferguson, you've got Adingra, you've got Ferguson, you've got Pedro, and you've got Fati all capable of playing down the middle. Where does that, you know what I mean? Like, where do his times come in? Like, he's going to have to be a bit part player. And when you're playing Mitoma and Adingra for 90 minutes almost, for 3 games in a week, it's obvious that we're going to need to bring on people to replace the wide players. It's not his fault he's not as good out wide.
Yeah, and just to add some more context to it coming on in the Fulham game, if we want to use that one as the one where people started raising concerns, you were switching from a 3 at the back at this particular moment. He came on in the 70th minute. You've just conceded the equaliser 5 minutes prior. You do a triple substitution. I think on came Billy Gilmore, on came Joel Veltman. You change your shape entirely. You wanted to keep Evan Ferguson out there for a bit longer to see if he got one more chance. And by the way, at some point, maybe next week, we should talk about how we really aren't getting enough touches to the forward position, regardless of who's playing there. I think he had about 26 touches the whole game, Evan Ferguson. But so you're bringing on João Pedro in a bit for Evan Ferguson when you decide you want to make that change. Here are your other options off the bench. So for the people that are hating on Buonanotte, who do you want to bring on here? Bart Verbruggen, probably not going to do much of a job on the right wing. Our boy James Milner, not sure we want to see that one. Jean-Paul Van Hecke, can you do a job on right out on the wing? Or Jack Hinchelwood, which if you're not particularly happy with players in their teenage years, not necessarily doing a lot, well, there's another one, and Hinchelwood tends to play a bit deeper anyway in the middle. So what else are you going to do? There's no one else.
No, and it's also the same it's also the same element that would probably be really annoyed if a player got played so much that they then got injured.
Yeah, it's just content for content's sake. People want to make 50 cents from Elon Musk.
But it's like it's that chicken and egg scenario. So in an ideal world, he'd have had a loan move and he'd be playing every week. Circumstances have dictated that that's not happened. Okay, so the next best scenario is you need to give him minutes where you can.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, fellas. Good chat. Be nice to Facundo. He's not, he's getting there. Chill out. We'll be back next week to cover Everton. Could be one of the most miserable podcasts ever, or a nice one. We really don't know.
That's the tagline.
But it's going to be it's going to be so grim if we lose. It's going to be a very, very quick podcast. So yeah, I don't even want to contemplate it, to be honest. I'm just going to...
Nah, that's not going to happen. Let's positive vibes only.
Yep, we will see you all next week post Everton to discuss the outrageous victory and have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your Halloween if you're celebrating. Enjoy your bonfire night if you're celebrating there. And have a good one.
Cheers all.